We're starting on time, team? We're going to start on time?
Yeah.
All right, good evening everybody and welcome to the first race of the Stewart 34 Championship Series. This is actually race 16 and we're out here on beautiful Auckland Harbour after being in Sydney this morning, now out here in Auckland. And I'm joined today in the co-commentating seat by Josh Weejohn. Josh, welcome to the lineup. How are you today?
Awesome, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to it. There's not much wind at the moment, but the race committee have confirmed they will be getting us away on time. And the tide is going to be going in all night, I think.
Yeah, it's not good that we don't have very much breeze. A bit painful for these big old classic boats, which are in 2019 celebrating 60 years of sailing here in Auckland. Now you sail one of these, don't you, Josh? Now explain to us why you're not sailing tonight.
I actually don't know. Maybe I've just had bad communications. Mark Bond and Guy Pilkington might be a bit disappointed that I was free and didn't hit them up, but that's all right. I'm here now and I'm going to have fun anyway.
Well, that's all right. You get the best seat in the house being on board here with us on the media boat. Special thanks to our driver tonight, who is Brad Davies here, so thank you very much. Brad will get us nice and close and personal. The great thing about the Stewart 34 is that we on the media boat are actually considered to be part of the fleet. We're allowed to get close, we're allowed to be in the action. The only thing we don't have is rights. So Josh, when we're out here today, you can't pretend that you're sailing, you can't call starboard because that's not going to go down too well in the protest room. We would get disqualified.
Yeah.
So we've only got at the moment about, what do you reckon, about 3 or 4 knots?
Yeah, it's pretty light, but it has been consistently from the north, maybe a bit northeast. A few of the boats just doing their pre-start checks. My old coach just behind us, Guy Pilkington on Playboy with his crew.
Now, how's Guy Pilkington going in the overall results there, Josh? Because we do have the results in front of us.
Yeah, at the moment, Guy is actually sitting in second place to Mark Bond on Prince Hal. And then in third place, we've got Paul Groom on Psyche, sitting even with Mark Taylor on Pahi.
Wow, it really is close competition. You can see the two boats that are leading the series currently in frame. We've got Playboy here with Guy Pilkington on the helm, and the blue boat behind that is Mark Bond on Prince Hal. The competition between these guys is so tight. Now, we all know that these sailors like to, say a few jolly words when they're out there, but have you ever seen anything quite like this tight, competitive, big, old, chunky keelboat one design racing, Josh?
No, and I love it because it's such short courses. It's really aggressive. When I first sailed on Playboy with Guy, actually was back when Mark raced on a different boat, which is not here anymore, but there was a whole lot of controversy about whether that boat fitted the rules or not, and it was just these two boats out in front of the fleet always racing each other. So it seemed like match racing when we'd come out here, and they were both super aggressive the whole time, and it made for a whole lot of fun.
There's actually a lot of pride on the line with these boats and these sailors. They've actually split into 2 divisions. So we've got our A division and our B division, and the A division sails with the spinnakers, but the B division just goes with the main and the jib, so no extras. Now we've got, I'm just going past Prism here, and one of our silver fleet boats, which we know, B division, non-spinnaker boats, there is Polaris. Now Matt Stephen, who was just part of the Honda Marine crew, normally sails on Polaris. He just won the JJ Giltinan 18-foot skiff championship in Sydney, where we were this morning and what we watched actually unfold yesterday. And he normally sails on the no spinnaker Polaris in the Stewart 34 series. So it just goes to show you can be an 18-foot skiff world champion and you can come and sail Stewart 34. So we're just about to have our 5-minute warning. So there we go, 5 minutes, and look at that, there's not much breeze flying that pink flag, Josh. At this point, part of a Stewart 34 crew, what would be going through your mind? What tactics would you want on this short course start line?
Well, it doesn't seem like we've got any tidal flow yet, so that's not going to come into play on the start, but assuming the line is even, you'd probably be pretty happy to start to leeward, so a tight leeward start on the rest of the fleet. That's being at the pin end, but really close to the next guy above you. That way you'll probably be able to squeeze them out and cross them back on port towards the top mark, and it's often only a 1 or 2 tack upwind here because it's so short, you know, so by the time you've punched out of your lane, you're getting ready to go back. So that's the main thing, is just making sure you've got a lane to get back to the top mark. It's quite a long, there we go, 4 minutes. It gets you that sound signal. It's quite a long start line. I think there's actually been a little bit of feedback about how short the line has been in the past, because you know, these big old boats, when there's not much breeze, they're slow. When there is breeze, they actually get a little bit of pace on and they don't have room to move. Yeah, they kind of load up and dig a big hole, but they still go faster.
So tactics up the first work in today's driftathon, what do you reckon?
I'm really not sure right now. Just as we're coming around the boat there, it's really shut down. You could say there's a little bit more pressure out right at the moment, but then the flags on the bridge have actually spun 180 as well, so we're really not sure how this is going to go.
This is going to be interesting. The one thing that we do know is sailing is full of controversy, and it could be here at the Stewart 34 Championship Series. We're just about to get away with race 16, the first race for 2019, which is the 60th anniversary for the Stewart 34 class. 3 minutes to go until the start. Now we've actually got some celebrities out here racing, one of those being Leonard Takahashi, who is over on the yellow boat. You probably can't quite see them, but we will get close to them soon. Leonard is part of the SailGP Japanese team, and he's also trailing out for the 49ers for Japan for the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah, Leonard's actually a real good mate of mine. We've match raced together from when we were in the youth program at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, and then well, the jacket I'm wearing has Pacific Racing Team, which is a team we started together to go match racing. He's a little bit busy for us at the moment, but we'll be getting back to it at some point for sure.
How could anybody be too busy to go sailing? Well, it's because they're too busy sailing.
Pretty cool though that, you know, he sails on the old AC50s and the SailGP, you know, and they're doing their best to crack 50 knots, and they probably will at the next regatta. And still here he is racing on the Stewart 34s. You know, no one tells him he has to be here. He's just done it for the fun of it, and he still really enjoys it.
Well, we can see that this breeze has shifted, and who knows what's... Yeah, right, you picked it. You picked that the flags on the bridge had completely switched around and changed their own tactics, which has resulted in the start being blown up.
Yeah, now it looks like the flags are kind of coming from the southwest a little bit on the bridge. Hasn't really settled in the middle of the harbour. Race committee's obviously put up the postponement flag, the AP. The pin's coming out, they're shifting the line.
Now the great thing about this team here at Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is that they'll actually get this mark, its whole course relayed relatively quickly from the experience that we've had being here at their events. But look at that, you can see there the breeze is now sort of coming in from that different direction, and boats are now starting to move. We might just sort of motor up and see some of these Stewart 34s up close and personal while we wait for the race committee to do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, it has delayed us a bit, this big shift, but if it stays in from this direction, it'll make for some better racing with that incoming tide the whole time. Because otherwise we'd be racing across the tide and we'd have to set a huge offset, because the speed of the tides here get up to about 2 knots or so.
We're just going to come and show you Prince Hal up close, and we did this live streaming for the Stewart 34s last year, you know, still part of this same series, which was really well received. So feel free to comment on the racing that you see and any of the action that unfolds. At the moment though, not too much action. However, that breeze has come in, and there's what, probably about 5, maybe 6 knots in that, Josh?
Yeah, little bit of a parent as we're going forward on the boat as well, but we're optimistic here.
We're always optimistic when we're out here sailing. You can see Prince Hal there.
The series leader at the moment.
Very, very serious racing. And Pahi, now a couple of years ago, Pahi celebrated her 50th birthday with a major makeover and renovation, and Pahi is like a piece of furniture. It's so well maintained. This is just one of a few boats that the owner, Mark Taylor, owns, but this one is his pride and joy.
Yeah, it's just really nice to see, isn't it? The kind of pride these owners do take in their boats here, and then they still race them. They're still happy to put the boat on the line and come out every Monday night.
And the other thing as well is that not only can you race a Stewart 34, but you can then go and put it in cruising mode, and you can go and cruise a Stewart 34.
Yeah, well, I guess that's just a big perk of One Design racing, you know. If they're all just the same, it doesn't matter if they're a bit heavier and have a bit of comfort. You've still got tight racing. Just here we're coming up to Playboy, who are currently in second place. This is a cool boat. Roy Dixon used to own this boat, and then Guy sailed on it with him, who's the owner at the moment, and then he bought it off him, and the same crew all sail together, and they've sailed together for years and years. Giving me a bit of crap for not being out here. How are you?
So you're not sure if you could probably... Well, there you go. So great commentating by the wonderful Guy Pilkington, who really does now owe me a sail on the M class. It was a few weeks ago. I was busy working on a job for Live Sail Die, and I couldn't sail my classic, well, not mine, but the boat that I'm very privileged to sail, Classic M Class, who is coming up to their 100th anniversary of sailing. Guy was going to take the helm of that, but sadly it got cancelled because of no wind. And look at this here now, no wind. I'm going to blame Guy Pilkington for the lack of breeze today.
Well, I'd say I'm disappointed, but I've just come to expect it.
So we're just coming up here to Psyche, who is a boat that is in third place with Pahi. And Psyche is the boat that Leonard is on. Have you spotted Leonard there yet? There he is. Is he wearing the same jacket as you?
Yeah, he is. Reffing his Pacific Racing team gear, and our regular trimmer from our team as well, Tim Snedden, just at the back there running some sheets. How's it going, boys?
It's non-existent at the moment. Leonard just asked where the breeze was, and yeah, there's not much of it. There's owner Paul Groom. Now, Josh, tell me, why would the owner, Paul, be up on the bow getting the rope sorted? Shouldn't that be his trusty crew?
Well, it's a team effort, you know, and if something's got to be done, good on him for just taking it on. He probably just saw that he wanted to run some different sheets. Looks like he's running some light wind sheets, so he probably just grabbed them and put them on.
So look, we have no control over the weather, so we do apologise for the delay. So while we're at it, Josh, tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up with the Congressional Cup.
Yeah, well, I'm going over to Los Angeles for the Congressional Cup at the Long Beach Yacht Club. I'm going to be sailing with an Australian, Will Bolden, from the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club over in Perth, and I'm going to be on tactics there. I'm really looking forward to it because last year I actually commentated in the Congressional Cup because we tried to qualify with our team, and Dean Barker picked us in the qualifying event in the semis and knocked us out, so killed our chances of qualifying.
It's a bit harsh of a fellow Kiwi to take on the youngsters.
Oh, I guess you got to take on who you know you can beat, and so maybe we'll get him one day. But yeah, but I was super stoked. Everyone at the club was really nice to me and just real hospitable. They asked me to stay on and commentate, and I had booked my flight for after the Con Cup because I backed myself to qualify. Thought I'd jinx it if I booked it earlier, so I was happy to hang out and chat with Tucker Thompson. Is that the race committee coming past at the moment?
That is the race committee that's coming past. You can see probably just barely making it out, but you'll be able to see that they've got the L flag up, which means in this situation means follow me. and they're actually now moving to the other side of the bridge. They're going to feel that they're going to get more breeze on the other side of the bridge. Josh, is would you be confident coming out this side? The breeze is going to fill in from the southwest?
I really couldn't tell you right now. It's just done a full shutdown. The two breezes may fight each other for a bit, so I think it's a good idea to commit to one side. So you either got to come all the way out this way to get that southwesterly, or you've got to go back to where the last breeze was that shut down and go further up the harbour to Akarana kind of way. So I think that's what the race committee's trying to do, is just dig into the southwesterly up here.
We have raced this side of the bridge, I think it was once this season already. It was quite a shifty, technical, stressful day. I know that we had one of our other boat drivers, Finn, was driving, and he said it was one of his toughest days because there was these shifts coming through, boats just tacking everywhere. One thing you don't want to do is make connection with a Stewart 34.
No, they're pretty heavy and it takes a lot to stop them, but that doesn't stop these owners really. I've seen quite a few crashes in my time here, and it definitely keeps you on your toes, keeps it interesting.
It certainly does, and this is a far cry from what we've been doing for the last week. We've been in Sydney for the JJ Gilton and 18-foot skiff World Championship, where a New Zealand team, Honda Marine, took out the prize for a second year in a row.
So does that mean they're going to actually bring the trophy here? Are we going to have the JJs raced in the Auckland Harbour, or what have they decided on that?
Josh, you bring up a very interesting topic of conversation that is currently in the midst of quite a few heated discussions. What can I tell you? I can tell you at this stage, we don't know. We can tell you that chances are it's unlikely to happen in New Zealand. But one thing I can tell you is that unfortunately we weren't allowed to bring the trophy back to New Zealand this time around.
Oh no, that's a real shame that they're that worried about it. I thought the tradition of that was that if you won it, you got to host it.
Well, if that was the case, then this year's event would have been held in New Zealand, because Honda Marine did win back-to-back JJs. They won 5 out of 9 races, which is an outstanding achievement. The other thing as well to point out is that Australia only won 1 race out of 9. That was SMEG in race 3. The other races were won by Honda Marine, ASCC and SeaTech, all New Zealand boats.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, you do see those guys though, like putting in a lot of work on their boats. They're often out training here in Auckland as well. And it's good to see it kind of convert to results, because they've been taking it on for a while now, and it's awesome to see.
They have been, and the 18-foot skiff New Zealand sailors, the team, the ASC Skiff League, actually sails from Royal Akarana Yacht Club, which is further up the harbour. And those guys, they put in a lot of effort this year, and they definitely do deserve their win. But there's going to be a lot of extra emphasis put on 18-foot skiffs at Akarana, with a bit of a campaign to get the boats that we've got available filled with teams, so that no matter where the JJs are held in 2020, New Zealand will have a strong force.
Yeah, a bit of emphasis you had there on filled with teams. It's definitely something all these young blokes actually really enjoy. It's just being able to commit to it properly is probably the hardest part there, but it is a whole lot of fun. It's some real tight one design racing. How do you think it compares to this racing out here tonight?
Much slower.
Yeah, a lot slower, but I guess still one design racing in the end.
You notice that it's a tough time of day as well, because you're on the start line for a 6 o'clock start. Some people can't get away from work. Those that can have to make up some pretty exceptional excuses to be able to leave work early to come down and go sailing. So we're still probably a little bit away from the start, so feel free to do the kids' homework, get yourself sorted for the evening, take the dogs for a walk. We're probably still about maybe a good 5 to 10 minutes away from the start.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. And it looks like out here it's even gone further south now.
Well, that's just not ideal, Josh. That's not what we've come out for. We've come out to show some really great close racing, and instead we're dealing with the breeze. But that's sailing. Unfortunately, no matter what happens, that's what we get dealt with.
Yeah, that's right. Still a lovely evening on the harbour here. It's a shot of Psyche just cruising on up to the start line as the boat has moved, if you've just joined us. Moved from below the bridge outside the Squadron up the harbour towards the Chelsea Sugar Factory.
How much sailing have you done this side of the Harbour Bridge, Josh? Because it's not a regular place that we do tend to go sailing.
Yeah, well, Guy Pilkington, who's steering Playboy, actually, when we were in the youth program, he really liked coming up here in these conditions to get racing away. It's low tide at the moment, so you can't go up into Big Shoal Bay, which is where you get out of the tide. So up here, we're just hoping to get right into that southerly breeze, and hopefully it's a bit more consistent. So it's actually a sneaky good little spot, and maybe not used as well as it could, or as often as it could be, really.
No, it's kind of like an area that is out of most of the traffic's way that we normally get dealt with. Maybe we should do some more sailing up here.
Yeah. That's the rock star sailor himself, Leonard Takashi, there on the back with the red jacket.
Now, how old is Leonard now?
I think he's 20 years old now.
So 20 years old, sailing for Sail GP for Japan, doing a 49er campaign, but most importantly out here for Stewart 34's on a Monday night.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is also where he started, keelboat racing, was at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron in the youth program, and so many of the youth program guys would come out for these kinds of events, especially with their coach at the time being right into it. So yeah, he just loves it down here, and he can't help himself.
He can't. Now, he does represent Japan, but he does spend most of his time here in New Zealand, just like Josh mentioned. Now, Josh, you've been at work all day. You come out, you're just eager to go sailing. Do you think that there's a sense of frustration with these guys? Do you think they just, they're on a bit of a time limit, they've got to get home by a certain time? Do you think that they'd just be keen to just get the race committee to set a course, let's go, let's see what we get and deal with what we've got, being that it is such short course racing?
Absolutely, yeah. I think they'd all be eager to get going, especially as we're getting a bit later into our summer now. The sun's starting to go down a bit earlier, kind of run out of time a bit sooner. Everyone's back at work full time, with the summer coming to end, so they've probably got a lot to do with the end of the financial year coming and things like that. So yeah, everyone just wants to go racing, and it can be frustrating, but the race committee are doing their best.
Absolutely, they do always do their best. They want to get racing away just as much as the sailors do, and just as much as we do here on the media boat that isn't a Stewart 34, but will be up close and personal with the Stewart 34's whilst racing is underway. Now, we've also got a handicap division in the Stewart 34 fleet. That's based on our PHRF system. Do you want to just run us through who's going well in the handicap ranks? Have you lost the piece of paper, Josh?
I may have lost the piece of paper somewhere. Have you got it?
No.
This has really put me on the spot.
Everyone check their pockets. Well, we came out here incredibly organised, and now we've lost the result sheet. So I think Josh is going to have to.
Oh, it's in the stern there. I'll grab it out and tell you. It's a little bit moist, but where's the handicap part of this?
No, there's 2 pages to the results.
Oh, this is the only one we had to start with anyway, so I don't know if I've actually. Oh no, there it is. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so on PHS, we have in first place Psychic, skippered by Mike Adine. I hope I said your name right. And then in second place we have Pahi, skippered by Mark Taylor. And in third we have Patere, skippered by Alan Retter.
So that's the handicap ranks for the season. So far, to date, 16 races in to the 2018-2019 Championship Series here for the Stewart 34's, who are... I who are
Good
now
idea.
celebrating their 60th year of sailing here in 2019, which is great to see considering, considering how old the design is, that it is still quite a competitive one design fleet, still with old Dacron sails. It's classic sailing at its best, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it really is.
Now, what do you like about these boats?
I like that they're actually quite hard to boat handle around the course, obviously being 60 years old, They don't really have very big cockpits and everything. You got to kind of crawl across the cabin top to pull the ropes, and there's no lifelines so you can fall overboard. So especially in the puff with these big Genoas, they just become an absolute handful to get around a course, and our teams even use it as training for match racing. So it's just awesome to have that kind of challenge that you wouldn't necessarily get on a modern boat with your boat handling around the course.
Now, they are big Genoas that they have. We just watched Playboy tack there in the distance. Now, they do also have a number 2 headsail as well, don't they, Josh? Tell us at what point the number 2 would come out.
That's a good question. I guess it depends on your crew weight, but probably most number 2s would be coming out above 15 knots. You probably won't see a number 2 until then.
Well, we're definitely not going to see a number 2 today, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
So what do you reckon we've got now, Josh, now that we've come the other side of the harbour bridge?
I reckon we've got pretty close to 5 knots at the moment, kind of that 4 or 5 range. The boats are up to pace. They're moving now. They'll be able to get some racing away in this for sure.
Well, with just how much sail area these boats have got, it doesn't really take much to sort of get them going. So we're keen to get some racing underway. You can see that the race committee here is just in the distance. You may or may not be able to see. Looks like they're getting ready to lay a top mark. Now, Josh, would we be... No, that wouldn't be.
I think that's the pin.
That has to be the pin that they're going to come down and lay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank goodness for that. I was a little disorientated then.
Tide's definitely coming in now. You can see the start boat there is actually... So we're up tide from it and upwind from it. Sorry, down tide and upwind, and it's just starting to spin around on itself as the tide changes.
Very frustrating, but this is sailing. We had this when we were over at the 18-foot skiffs. Luckily, it was the day that I was commentating, the only day that it belted down with rain, and we were forced to wait for a storm squall to sort of go through to settle things down before we got racing underway. It was extremely uncomfortable. It was not pleasant at all. And we had to wait for racing to get underway, and eventually it did. It ended up, what we thought was going to be about a 20-25 knot day ended up being about a 3 to 4, sometimes a 5, maybe a 6 knot day, but it was incredibly frustrating, not only for us on the commentating boat, the Camera Cat, but also for the sailors who were trying to keep themselves upright whilst just waiting for sailing to get underway. Luckily though, here, I think there could be a few beverages being consumed at some point. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a fun class as well. A lot of people just do it to catch up with their mates once a week and go racing. So yeah, there'll be a few people cracking open a few cold ones if they did bring them out. Some boats run a dry program, like Playboy has a rule of no alcohol on board. Roy put that rule in place years ago and takes it pretty seriously.
It's actually not a bad rule to have. As you see, going past Palladian and
Precedent to windward.
Precedent, another beautiful boat. And Palladian actually did the round New Zealand race in 2012. We just had a sound signal. AP has come down, which is good. Yeah, Palladian with Kurt Boyle. He did the 2012 Round New Zealand race. The Round New Zealand race is actually hosted by the Shorthanded Sailing Association of New Zealand, and the fleet of 7 boats are on their way to Auckland for the final leg of that mammoth race that takes, about their sort of 3.5 weeks into the race now. And we're going to be seeing those guys coming back into Auckland in a couple of days' time. But right now it's all about Stewart 34's. The AP has come down, which means that we're less than a minute and now away from a 5-minute warning signal, which means that we should get some racing underway shortly.
Absolutely. All the boats are now moving around properly. The puff's filling in a little bit more. The pin's in. They're just setting a top mark now. They just dropped it in the water there. There goes the 5-minute gun.
That's a good observation there, Josh. I was just making some comments to our boat driver and I missed that one. Good work. So we're 5 minutes away now. Pink flag has gone up. The pink flag is being held flying by another rope, but that's okay. The orange flag, the orange on-station flag, signalling the start boat is ready to go. And there you go, there's the pink flag flying. We've got Pikey coming down here now in front of us.
So first up here, we're going to have Division 1, or is it A or 1? The first division?
The Spinnaker division.
The Spinnaker division, exactly. So there's all the boats that will be racing with spinnakers, and I imagine we're mostly going to be following them.
Yeah.
And after that, there is a non-spinnaker division.
So at this point now, the boats will run the line. They'll see how long it actually takes them. Hopefully they would have done that before, but the start pin is pretty much only just laid. There's our 4-minute gun. So the fleet will run the line, they'll get their transit, and they'll get themselves ready to go. Now, where would you want to be on the start line? Given the conditions, given the short course windward leeward race, 2 laps, twice around the top mark, Josh, where would you want to be at this point?
I guess the most important part is to just make sure you've got a strong lane, to hold your lane for at least a minute or two as you come off the line. With the incoming tide, I think there's going to be a bit of deeper water towards the pin end. So you'd be happy to take that, but it can be reasonably tricky at the moment because it seems like there's more breeze in the right, but you're not sure if you could hold a windward lane on all the other boats if it were to go light.
3 minutes to go until the start, and look, yeah, I think it's going to be a light wind race, Josh.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky. Definitely a lot of passing lanes, a bit of snakes and ladders about to happen here.
And I think that's one of the great things about this fleet is that, you know, we've been out here before and we've watched Playboy go from being dead donkey last to being first in just 2 tacks.
I don't know if that's great or not. It's great for them.
Great for them, not so great for everybody else.
Yeah. Over on Princess here, we've got a tactic that must have been invented when the boats were built as well, where they seem to have their spinnaker stuffed up in the pulpit up on the bow. I'm not generally a fan of that, but you do see a few of the teams doing that.
I think when the laundry basket is up the bow, it sort of tends to take on a whole new meaning. But yeah, you can see that, you know, maybe some boats think that that's the edge that they need. However, do you think that that would create a bit of windage whilst going upwind?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do that, especially while you're underpowered, I'd definitely be having the bowman go and plug it in part way up the beat rather than having all that windage right in front of your genoa there.
We're about 1:30 away from the start now. You can see Prince Hal, the bowman up there, just sort of checking the line.
And we've just had a bit of puff fill in just as you were talking there. Seems to be more like 6 or more knots now. The boats might be fully powered in some of this puff.
And how much do you reckon is in the puff? Because it doesn't feel like much. You can feel it, you can see it, but it doesn't look like much. Coming up to 1 minute. 15 seconds away. So we're going to situate ourselves right on the line.
Looks like a lot of the teams are fighting for the boat here. In the middle of your screen. Sorry, there goes the 1 minute flag, and it looks like Prism there setting up. Princess leading across the line. Prince Hal coming in behind Prism. The blue boat, the fully blue boat, is Prince Hal with the blue rig, number 41. Mark Bond, skipper of Prince Hal, looking like he's setting up to try and win the boat. He's a bit early though. Behind them, the yellow boat over there, also doing their best to push him. So they're threatening to hook him to leeward and gain right of way. So Prince Hal now putting their bow down, leading towards the boat. The rest of the fleet are kind of stacked up in the middle of the line. They're all pretty close to each other. That's Passion in the middle, 353. Look like they need to give way to number 809 down there. Will they give way?
3, 2, 1.
There goes the start, one boat over. And it was Prince Hal. That's going to be costly. They're going back.
That's our series leader, Prince Hal, who was called the individual recall. Means they have to go back and they have to restart.
Meanwhile, we're just behind Psyche, who seem to have the edge over the rest of the fleet. They're definitely crossing if the others come back, and they will have right of way as they're on starboard. So the boat was favoured, and there's a bit of a right-hand shift at the moment.
So Psyche does actually look like to be the best boat to come out of that start. They left it to the last minute to come in. They put some pressure on Prince Hal, which actually forced them to be over the line. So Psyche looking good off the blocks in this race 16 of the 2018-19 Stewart 34 Championship Series, here racing on Auckland Harbour.
Just centre of screen there, you've got Prism, who look like they should be somewhere around second place if they can hold this lane. And far left, that's Partete, the fully blue boat. Looks beautiful at the moment. Is that a new paint job?
It does look like they've had a bit of a Christmas makeover. Either that or someone's been out with the polish.
And the far left there, furthest boat away, just gone behind Partete's sails, is Playboy. So they've gone for the complete opposite side of the line to what Prince Hal thought was favoured.
Now, do you want to have a look back down and just give us a bit of an update on where our series leader Prince Hal is at the moment, Josh?
Yeah, well, Prince Hal have still kept to the right of the whole fleet. They are doing their best to get back in it, but they are well back. That was pretty costly.
That is going to hurt our series leader. But, you know, like I said before, you know, we've seen boats go from being dead donkey last to winning a race. So let's not rule them out just yet, Josh.
No, I wouldn't rule them out. And they are fast and they have smooth boat handling. So I think we'll see them back in this race at some point.
Meanwhile, we're sitting, well, the boat's just about to tack. They're thinking about it. Takes a lot to tack one of these things.
Yeah, here we go. About 160% overlapper here with the Genoa. A lot of rope to pull. And Partete have their lifelines on, which are not required in the Stewart 34 class. So it makes it a little bit harder for them to tack.
So just talk us through why they have that option of lifelines being able to come off for this short course racing.
Well, it's I think they figure it's not really a safety requirement for this inner harbour racing, you know, and it makes it far easier to manoeuvre these boats because you've got big spinnakers and poles that will hit the lifelines, and you've got big Genoas like these that will also get caught up on the lifelines. So it just makes for better racing all around, really.
So it's a two-lap windward leeward course, just sort of looking up, trying to spot the top mark.
And just in the middle of your screen there, it looks like Playboy have got the better of Partete. They are bow forward. Partete appeared to be leading off the line. That's Partete just coming past us now. Playboy behind them.
That's Psyche.
Sorry, Psyche, my bad. Yeah, apologies. But they could be on ley line, so it'll be interesting to see this top mark rounding. It's going to be very close.
See, the top mark is just in the distance there, and it looks like that there's no offset being laid in this lighter breeze here tonight, Josh.
Yeah, especially with the course being set straight up and down in the tide. It looks like Playboy should have buoy room here, so they should have the right of way as we round this mark. All these Stewart 34's, they all start with a P, so it can be quite confusing if you're a bit dyslexic and trying to commentate.
Yeah, they do all start with P. That is because when this class started, it was the Patiki class.
Oh, right. I didn't know that. Learned
There's
something new today.
There's a little fun fact for you. So we're coming up to this top mark here. Josh, at what point would the crews want to start thinking about getting their spinnaker ready?
Well, they should have everything plugged in already, you know, and that big overlapper is in the way, so there's not much you can really do now until the boat tacks. What they need to do here, though, is they need to have the pitman ready to pull the pole up as they tack, as soon as that Genoa is clear, and the bowman needs to be ready to put it straight out. You can see Bex Hornell there on the bow of Playboy, helping the Genoa around. Up goes the pole. Psyche matching. Psyche's got its pole on first. Will they have a better set? Playboy struggling to get their pole on there, the leader. Both boats hoisting. You can hear Pilks screaming, and that's pretty common in the Stewart 34 class.
He does like to have a voice, Mr. Guy Pilkington, we do know that. Looking at Passion here now, and you can see Joey Allen, a very well-known, famous Kiwi yachting. He is at the Kiwi yachtsman. He is the back of that boat calling the shots. And again, he's doing a lot of communication to the crew.
Yeah, well, these old school boats and old school sailors, they're quite into that, so that's cool. And now that's Prism just rounding and hoisting as well. Prism's in 4th place. The lead boat's making their way out to the right, all just fighting to keep their air clear. Precedent rounding in 5th place. And it looks like a better hoist to Princess, who had their spinnaker up on the bow before racing. We did comment on that. And they've had an excellent hoist that looks like they may have made up a place even.
So do you think having the spinnaker on the bow there has actually paid off for them in that set?
It may have for them, but I'm still not a fan. And here comes Prince Hal. They've managed to pick off 2 boats after being over for the start. That's Prince Hal there with the colourful yellow and blue spinnaker.
You can see that Pahi, who is currently 3rd overall, equal 3rd overall in this series, with Psyche coming around in last place. That's not good for Mark Taylor and his team. He'll be quite disappointed with that. The thing with Mark, though, is a bit more of a quiet achiever. He has a bit of a frustrating tone that he gives, as opposed to more, loud communication that we see on some of the other boats.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule them out again. We've just seen Prince Hal get round 2 boats, and there's a lot. It's quite light. There's a lot of dirty air being cast on the boats in front of them, so they've got plenty of chances to pass people here. As you can see on your screen right now, Prince Hal is actually giving some pretty bad air to Princess to leeward of them as they roll into a jibe. I think they are on ley line as well, so they're just trying to set up inside these other boats, because if they jibe first and they're pointing closer to the mark, these other boats are also going to have to jibe and come back through their line, through their bad air, to get to the bottom here.
That was an outstanding jibe by Prince Hal. You can tell why they are the series leader. But the other guys in the teams are also doing some quite nice incident-free jibes. Having a light breeze, I think, probably helps that. And just sort of having a look at some of these sails, these Hyundai spinnakers, they're quite a few years old now, but they're still keeping up and they're still flying beautifully in this fleet. So it's another reason why the Stewart 34 is great. You don't actually have to have the latest and greatest and the fancy gear to be competitive. Would you agree with that sentiment there?
Yeah, especially on these short courses, you've got every opportunity to pick a shift and get yourself back in racing, up in here. So you don't have really long races where it's all about boat speed. It's actually more about tactics and how you position yourself against the rest of the fleet. As all the boats jibe, you've got Playboy just in front, and they're being forced back by Psyche.
This really is a take no prisoners fleet.
All the boats are going to have to turn towards us to get to the bottom mark. I don't think there's a gate laid as far as I can tell. The bottom mark is straight towards us. They're almost reaching back to it at this stage, and Prism could do really, really well out of this.
Well, Prism, as it stands, has all the rights in the world, and Playboy, who was leading, now pushing the fleet up.
Oh, we might see some contact here as Prism also avoids pushing. I can't tell who that is. Passion, pushing Passion up. Passion doing the same to Prism.
Oh, we were outside the 3 boat lengths at that point, so yeah, Prism did actually have to keep clear. Passion's just dropping their kite now.
A whole lot of yelling. This is why we love the Stewart 34's. Prism choosing to leave their pole up. Do you think they're just going to drop the chute to leeward and keep the pole on?
They could very well do that. Let's just have a listen to the comms that we're getting from on board. Not sure if you can hear that, but we can, and it is humorous.
Leonard at the back there on Psyche just saying to Passion, "What are you doing, mate? Proper course." Hands in the air, he's not happy.
There's a lot of arm movements, a lot of vocal cords being pushed to their limits here in this first mark rounding. Check out how close this is.
President, no room in there. That's on video, there'll probably be a protest.
Oh dear.
And we're getting very close to all the boats here. That's Passion just tacking right in front of us.
And this is what it is all about. This is close action racing. We are in here amongst it. Our driver, Brad Davies, doing a fantastic job.
Nice work, Brad.
I've nearly fallen out of the boat there. It's action stations. Who needs breeze when you've got close action racing like this? We've got the media boat who's in amongst it. You've got crew falling off. You've got screaming by some of the world's best sailors. Oh, it doesn't get much better than this.
No, this is absolutely outstanding.
That was insane. You probably wouldn't have been able to pick up on that. Brad, how was that for you?
Never again.
Never again.
Great job, Brad, getting right up close to the action. Didn't infringe on any of the boats, so we're all good, mate, no worries.
And have a look here, we've got a spinnaker that is not doing what it's meant to be doing. Josh, that looks painful.
Yeah, I mean, they should have probably got that down at the bottom mark, right?
The thing that we're taught, 101 when at Learn to Sail is you do not sail with a spinnaker upwind.
No, and you just got to make sure to be prepared and do it all early.
Now, Josh, have a look at this. We've got Prince Hal, who were called back at the start. They were over the line, the individual recall, but have a look at them now. They could very well be in the top 3 or 4. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, they managed to, kind of the rest of the fleet all got really caught up there, and I think they got through clean, and now they've capitalised off that. They're back in the lineup. It just really depends what this next shift is here.
The breeze has actually picked up. What do you reckon we've got now?
At least 6 knots, I'd say. The boats are kind of almost full power. You can see the crew are on the rail, but they're not quite hiking yet.
Oh, this is thrilling. 6 knots, and who would have thought you'd have such close, intense racing? Just remember, when these boats do connect, there's a lot of maintenance required, but it does happen.
Yeah, and right now it looks like Prince Hal have a bit of a higher mode than Precedent. We're getting pretty close to the port hand ley line for the top mark, so they're doing their best to squeeze them out and get across before the ley line.
I think Prince Hal has done a great recovery, and they're just trying to get the upper hand there on Precedent, and see them trying to sort of push them out. Yeah, there you go. Precedent has been forced to tack, and Prince Hal will follow suit to head back over to the top mark, and Playboy further up in the distance. But coming up here now to Psyche with Leonard Takahashi on board, the Japanese sailor who lives in New Zealand. He had his arms flapping about, he was waving, he was not happy at that mark rounding.
Yeah, you've got Leonard just behind the owner there, doing the tactics. Big cross coming up here as Psyche just make it past Prince Hal, and they're going to slam them. They know they're in the lead, and they're going to do their best to force them back.
Psyche, who is currently running 3rd overall, equal 3rd with Pahi, wants to get an upper hand on Prince Hal in this race 16 of the Stewart 34 Championship Series. But the boat that's doing really well here is Prism.
Yeah, that's Prism, just crossing Psyche. Calling starboard, yelling out at Passion, who choose to dip. Passion putting their bow down. Do you think they're on ley line? I probably would have gone for a slam there if I was Prism. They could have lost the place.
I love it when you say, let's go for a slam in a chunky old Stewart 34. Looking at the speed of the tack there with Prism.
And the sheets are caught around the pole. You can see there on the windward side, they are not happy. That is going to be costly.
That was the commentator's curse right there. We thought they were going to do a good one. They were doing well. They have now lost out big time. Big recovery for those guys as we come back out here looking at Passion, the boat further closest to us, with Joey Allen calling the shots on board. The yellow boat, which is Psyche with Leonard Takahashi on board, and Prince Hal, who was over the line at the start. They went back. They were last.
Well, yeah, and it looks like now they're in at least 3rd, and they've got a really good shot at the lead still. So great work by Prince Hal. Psyche just doing their best to gas them all out. Leonard's still turning around yelling at the guys behind him. I think this is why he loves this kind of racing, because he can just get vocal.
He can get vocal, yeah. I mean, having good vocal cords in the Stewart 34 fleet is a must. If you don't have good vocal cords, don't bother turning up.
And that's the top mark there. Passion swinging it round. You'll see the pole coming on, closely followed by Psyche, who are also closely followed by Prince Hal. This is some tight racing right now.
Pole up, pole up, pole up is what we're hearing from Joey Allen. And Passion, the boat that is currently leading, but Prince Hal, what a recovery after their individual recall, forced to go back. Let's watch their set here.
It's coming out the windward side for Prince Hal. It was twisted on the way up, but it's come straight out and a beautiful set. Passion getting super close to Playboy, who are coming. Playboy just in your shot there, coming through, everyone.
Now Playboy hasn't had a good one after that leg. We wonder what, they didn't recover well after that intense mark rounding that we saw, and that's pushed them way back. This is going to blow the result wide open, having Playboy so far back in the fleet. Same with Pahi as well. But Passion, who is currently 4th in the series, well actually sort of 5th because we had equal 3rd, leading this race, followed by Psyche, the yellow boat. But Prince Hal has to be, I mean, you have to give them a bit of a medal and a bit of a pat on the back for this kind of recovery, don't you, Josh?
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw their top mark rounding. They have great boat handling and they're just doing everything they can to get back into the race. You saw their awesome boat speed on the upwind as well. So they've got a lot going for them, these guys.
Now, do you think that Psyche is going to start to play silly buggers with Prince Hal here?
It would not surprise me. At the moment, both boats are pretty close to laying through, so getting through the finish line on this jibe. It'll be interesting to see what Psyche chooses to do to defend this. There's two ways they can go about it. They can either jibe off and clear their air, or they can come up and luff them, try and drag the game further out this side so they can jibe back with clear air to the finish line and lead over.
There's Passion going for their jibe, getting ready for it. The call was made, but it was just then told to hold.
Yeah, I think they'd be pretty happy to let these other two kind of fight it out with each other and do their best to extend this little lead.
Just as we've got one of the non-spinnaker boats coming through the fleet there. Flyer. The boat is actually for sale. If you do want to get involved with Stewart 34 Racing, Flyer, the boat that just went between Psyche and Prince Hal, is for sale. And if you're in New Zealand, jump on Trade Me and put an offer in and let's keep that boat out here racing.
I have actually been looking at that one myself, and it is very tempting.
And the guy driving the boat also looked at it, and I put a pretty big, yeah, not going to happen, can't afford it.
Yeah.
But here we go. Do you think that Passion is going to be able to maintain their lead?
Yeah, at the moment I've backed them to maintain their lead. They've got more or less clear air. They've got enough clear air to make it to the bottom. But Prince Hal, on the other hand, seem to have made it around Psyche. Prince Hal turning an OCS start into a second place, potentially.
And that is why they are our series leader. They have just rolled over the top of Psyche. Leonard is not going to be happy with that. He's going to probably do some flapping post-race. He will not be happy. But that's the way it goes. This is Stewart 34 Racing. You've just seen it. You've seen close action. You've seen thrilling vocal cord action as well. Josh, what's going to happen here at this finish line?
Well, it looks like Prince Hal just choosing to jibe off towards the boat, doing their best to get some dirty air on Passion as we get closer to the finish line. Passion is still ahead. They should be confident here. Prince Hal really putting them under pressure though. Passion just need to keep it straight, keep it down.
So close.
Will they get it? And there you go. Passion closely followed by Prince Hal, who managed to get around Psyche, if you can see just behind them here. The yellow boat, yellow spinnaker, who will finish in 3rd place. Precedent off to their left will finish in 4th, but I think that could be controversial after them sticking it in there on that bottom mark rounding. A lot of yelling at that bottom mark. Still close racing though.
I thought it was fantastic, Josh. You know, the use of colourful language and colourful boats and colourful spinnakers at a mark rounding always provides great entertainment. And our boat driver, Brad, did an exceptional job to keep out of trouble. At one point, though, we didn't think we would be. It's going to be a very, very close finish here between Pahi, Playboy and Prism. Who will get it? It's going to be Playboy, then Pahi, and then Prism. Another very, very close finish here for race 16 of the Stewart 34 Championship Series, hosted by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Well, there you have it. That is the race almost done with the Spinnaker division, and then the non-Spinnaker division coming down in a little bit more chilled out vibe.
Yeah.
The non-Spinnakers?
Yeah, the non-Spinnakers, they're quite a lot more chilled out. They'll probably crack open a couple of cold ones.
They probably will. All right, guys, we're going to cut out our live stream of race 16 and we'll come back to you shortly. Josh, is the breeze going to pick up for the next race?
I think it'll at least stay in. I don't want to don't want to leave myself open to that one, whether it will come in or not, but I think it'll hold for now at least, and we will see more racing tonight.
All right, well, we'll be back for race 17 shortly, so stand by and we'll see you soon.